Welcome to this video. We're going to see how to play the solo mode using our virtual table. First of all, we'll create a hero together. Let's go to the hero creator. Obviously, everything is in Italian, but you can select your own language. Let's give our hero a name, a completely random name. Let me know in the comments if you want. Here's a little button to generate random names. It might come in handy. Rank 0, because we're students, it automatically sets our race as human. Let's choose the school class. I'll go with Otaku. Obviously, the main class doesn't matter to us because it's related to the other 11 worlds of Geyser of Crystallia. So when we die, we're summoned. And what else? In fact, we can't even select it. At rank 0, we don't have any innate abilities, so that's not a problem. Skills, we have to choose which of the 4 skills to give a +1 to and which one to give a -1 to. I think that since we're otaku, I'll give +1 to intelligence and probably -1 to toughness. We don't have any blessed seeds, 0 out of 0, because we're just normal students, so we don't have any innate powers of our own. Before choosing techniques, I pick psychology, and I want my character to be curious. At this point, let's choose the techniques. The available techniques are only those from the last manual. If you're playing in a school setting, basic attack is included by default, and we have to choose 2 more techniques. We do have +1 intelligence, so I want to see what we can pick that uses intelligence. I'll take strategic feint because I'm definitely not suited for combat. I'll just take distraction, that's it. Basically, that's all. Why this choice? Because I like them, there's no real logic to it. So basically, since I don't have the blessed seeds, there's no point right now in picking techniques in any particular way. So I'm just going with the flow, simply following the narrative, how I want my character to be. No equipment, it's not important. Let's upload an image. Okay, we have our otaku, let's save it. Perfect. At this point, let's open our VTT, which will be unlocked at the end of the Kickstarter campaign. Let's create a room. Let's give the room a name. The number of players doesn't matter. Create room. Perfect. Perfect. We're in our virtual tabletop. First of all, now let's go ahead and activate the solo gameplay mode, and then we can load up our main hero character. Here we have our hero's character sheet. Even though it shows us some blessed suits, that's a bug. I need to fix it. Let me remind you that everything is still in beta, so it's normal for there to be some errors. Innate, none. We have our otaku specialization, our psychology is curious, so if we need it, we have our character sheet. Down here we have our techniques, our EV deck. So everything is in order. So how exactly do you play in the solo mode? First, let's navigate over to our custom decks. We currently have the 2 specialized last due decks available. One is used specifically to ask last for some helpful advice, providing simple yes or no answers. And the other deck is designed to check the current relationship level with an NPC or any other character you encounter. Non-player character. Below instead, we have all the tables related to the school environment. When Lumina is released, for those who have the Lumina manual, a section will also be added to play in the fantasy world of Lumina precisely. As I was saying, the last due deck, for example, is there someone I know in this room, right? A question that I asked the last deck for my childhood friends with that person. Yes, and there's also a probability. So probability also comes into play in the school setting. Or what kind of relationship do I have with that person? Maybe we're not on good terms and we have a relationship level. -40. Perfect. These are the 2 basic decks we use to build our questions. And our relationship levels, As for the school, as we mentioned, we have various tables from locations to narrative to objects, characters, probability, development, and so on. Let's define the narrative. So what is the main theme of our school story? You can choose this because maybe you're a fan of sports anime, horror-themed anime, or romantic anime. In my case, I'm going to generate the narrative randomly. And the narrative, so the plot of my story, is all based on a horrible secret that has been discovered. So I imagine that during our sessions, we'll end up uncovering this terrible secret, and then we'll see how everything develops in the story. Let's remember that in the school setting, each day is divided into 3 acts: morning, afternoon, and evening. You get to choose when the story moves forward. Now, we're not going to go over all the micro rules, because I remind you that Gates of Crystalia is designed so that you can be as meticulous as you want and add everything in. Or simply, if you're the kind of person who just wants to have fun and play, you can just use the tools and rules that help you create your story and enjoy yourselves. So we have our narrative, and I would start right away with the morning. Since we're in a school setting, I'll load the school entrance. The first question that comes to mind for my story is there anyone I know? No, so I finally arrive right at the main school entrance. And after looking around carefully for a while, I still don't see anything at all. And there is absolutely no one there that I recognize. But I want to try making an intellectual skill check to look more closely. Maybe at first glance I didn't find anyone, but maybe if I look more carefully, someone is there. I drew an ace. Perfect. The ace is worth 14. I have an extra bonus. Intelligence. Perfect. And since it's a spade, the suit of intelligence, when I make an intellect check and the card is the same suit as the check, the value gets more typical. So I got a 30, okay? Basically, it's an absolutely incredible and surprising result. So I'm quite sure that I'll eventually find someone I'm truly interested in. Let's just say it's a specific girl I already know, who was probably just blending in perfectly with all the other people standing at the entrance. And now I'm going to carefully start to create the NPC for her. The girl, so I can either modify an existing enemy or create one from scratch. We'll create one from scratch. Let's upload a photo of a girl. We'll call her Miko. We can add a description, which is very useful if you later use the integrated AI in the virtual tabletop. In this case, we don't need it. We can just assign her some stats. I'll put in some values. Randomly, let's give her everything 0. It's not important. The techniques aren't important, nor is the innate ability. These are all details that you can later define more precisely or develop over time. So by giving her a neutral profile, and then maybe, as the story progresses, if this character continues to be present in your story, you can add little pieces, for example, her desires or perhaps her hidden secret. Let's save the character online. Perfect. Now, if I go to custom perfect, I have Miko. I can assign Miko as an ally character to my hero. And in fact, if I go here, I have Miko. Let's add Miko to Canva as well, so we can mimic the scene where we met her. Okay. We managed to meet Miko. Let's place her lower down, otherwise she looks huge. Perfect. Remembering that, the story revolves around the discovery of a horrible secret. The first thing that comes to mind is to ask Miko how she's doing and if she has any interesting news to tell me. So I ask Stu, does she respond positively to this? Yes, and there's also a probability, so an additional positive development. So Miko probably has some news, and this news, let's see, with a probability of sudden insight. So Miko might have had the brilliant idea, and she tells us that she has indeed had an insight and wants to involve us in her idea. Does her insight have to do with going to some room or part of the school? Probably. Let's pretend yes, because it's something I like. I'm somehow steering the story toward a horror aspect, so I already imagine the school at night, Migo and I investigating, so it will become a sort of story with a horror theme. And in the last do manual, there are also rules for playing horror stories, so I decide in this case I don't need last do, but I want to know, Miko, which place in the school do you intend to visit? Probably tonight. So I'll use places, the sports equipment storage room. Probably Miko has. I have heard many strange stories about how something mysterious happened inside the school's old sports equipment storage room specifically. Do I want to extend this scene? No. Let's go straight to the classroom so we can change the background if we like. There's the lesson, there's the teacher. You can obviously add the teacher. You can add all the NPCs, just like we did with Miko. You can add them as allies if they're important NPCs. We haven't checked the relationship level we have with Miko because I assumed that we're friends. Okay, there's an acquaintance with a relationship level value of 10, so I go into allies and set it. Miko 10, relationship level. We listened to Miko's story. He got us involved in his idea. In my opinion, we still got some bonuses with Miko in the last manual. In the manual, there are some examples to get an idea of how these bonuses should be managed. I tend to self-manage a bit, and in my opinion, going along with or believing a friend about something strange can grant you anywhere from 2 to 5 points, because believing in someone is still something important. So I give myself 5 points, and now we have 15 relationship points. Let's go back to the classroom. And I want to ask the GM if during the lesson, since all the students are gathered, if there's anything strange going on, because maybe there could be a classmate of mine who's acting weird and could be involved in this whole story. No, but something unexpected happens, so there's no one strange, but something unforeseen occurs. There's a crisis among friends. In the group, probably an argument between people in the class. And at this point, I want to know, what kind of atmosphere is there in the classroom? Whispers in the hallway, in the corridors, so the quarrel, it's so, how do you say, heated that students from other classes start whispering about this event. So strange, this aggression within the class. And at this point, I want to know who was arguing. Okay, a school rival, not a kitten, we'll skip that, with his best friend. Perfect, so 2 friends. Longtime friends who are arguing about something. At this point, I would like to do an intellectual competence check to try to understand why they are arguing. Okay, 3 is very low, so I don't understand anything about the situation. I only know that it will probably end with the 2 being removed from the class and the lesson being suspended. This will give me the chance to slip out of the classroom to go investigate. In true anime style, as I leave the room and head into the hallway, I'm curious to see if Miko follows me. I didn't suggest it to her, but I'm curious to see if she does. She doesn't follow me. Okay, that's a bit strange, probably. I expected her to follow me. She doesn't. Perfect. I go to switch the scene to the hallways, and then I will simply continue. Bye. Trying to figure out where these guys have been taken, probably to the secretary's office or the principal's office, to try to understand a bit more. In the end, I'm actually quite curious about it. So I decide to go and take a closer look to make a check. I probably know where the principal's office is, so I head straight there. They're definitely not. Let's see if the kids were actually taken into the principal's office. Let's ask Stu. Yes, they're there. Perfect. I'm going to make a skill check. But I use my psychological trait, curious, which says that once per day, when the hero faces a completely new situation, they can draw 2 cards for a skill check and choose the better result. If they do, they place the chosen card in the fatigue zone and the other at the bottom of the deck. To do this, of course, I'm not going to make a skill check, but I'm going to use peek, because that way I can look at the top 2 cards. I'll definitely choose the king, so I'll put the 2 at the bottom of the deck. We'll leave this one on top. Now I'll make the intellect skill check. I already know it's a king, plus 1 from my intelligence. 14 is a good result, so I managed to eavesdrop successfully. What's happening inside the room? What kind of atmosphere is there? Okay, there's a momentary calm, so there isn't any chatter in the hallways, probably not even any students around. It's just me there, crouched behind the door, listening to what's happening. How does the scene unfold? There's a shared sense of vulnerability, so probably the 2 being questioned by the principal or the headmistress open up by maybe sharing an event that happened in their family, something that broke their friendship bond. Maybe one of them said something they shouldn't have while the other was going through a vulnerable time. Is this something that matters in our story? No, but it adds something to our character's growth. It adds a piece to the story that we could use later on. So we can move on and go, for example, to face the afternoon, the rest of the day, maybe in the school clubs, and then possibly the evening with the investigative inspection, at night together with Miko. Obviously, these things I mentioned about character growth add points, story points, and as the story points increase, we move toward the end of the story. I won't drag this explanation out any longer than necessary. I truly hope that this walkthrough has been helpful for you in understanding how to manage and navigate the solo mode. I really enjoy sharing these tips with you, using it, creating these stories. If you have any feedback, write it in the comments, because as you know, if you're already our supporters, if you're in the Discord group, all your feedback is collected and applied. So let us know. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next videos. Thanks, everyone.